No. We've been talking about this as part of our NFL Insiders group at ESPN between me, Chris Mortensen, and Adam Schefter, our front office insiders. We were all shocked with what happened last week, just the way it went down, and it's really something we didn't. Not only do we not expect Tom Gamble to be let go, or whatever you want to call it, just the fact that they didn't really have anyone in mind when Howie Roseman did what he did, made that decision to fire Gamble, and then. Mike, as you know, then Howie lost the GM job less than 72 hours later. The whole thing was sloppy the way it was done, but I'm sure these people had their reasons. But in the end, right now the Eagles are without their number one and number two personnel people, which I think seems to be lost, Mike, on a lot of people.
Well, yeah, and I mean, then with this way that you just broke that down, Adam, does this really suggest, because that Friday there were some reports that Chip was so angry and upset that he maybe wanted to leave, does this suggest that he maybe held Lurie's feet to the fire and said, look, if I don't get this or that, I'm gone?
No, you know what? I don't think that here's what I think about what you just asked me. It never got to that point where there were any threats. But here's, as opposed to a general manager last night, we were catching up on what happened in Atlanta, which is also interesting. There have been a lot of very interesting front office moves, Mike. I said, well, we were just talking about this, and he asked me in Philly, he goes, what do you think Chip would have done if the owner refused? And I said, well, that would have been Armageddon. That's what they wanted to avoid. And Jeff Lurie's smart enough to understand you've got a guy that have a job within 24 hours if he left. They never had to go to that point, and that would have been the next point, obviously. Chip got what he wanted, and I think he saw when his right-hand man, Tom Gamble, was no longer there, that he had to take control of the situation. And I would also say this, I don't think this is something that was going to happen before the season started, but because of the way things escalated out of control, I think he did the thing where he thought he had to take control of the situation before the situation controlled him.
Adam, do people around football believe that Chip Kelly is ready for the power that he was just given? I mean, there's not too many guys in this league who have succeeded with all of this on their plate. I mean, some good coaches, Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid. I mean, there's not too many. I think Bill Belichick's about the one guy who still can do all of it. Do people think he's been given too much too fast?
But Belichick is the big one. It's worked to a certain degree. They've been very, very good with first-round picks. And people bash the Patriots, but if you graded their first-round picks over the last 15 years, they're probably in the top 5. It's their second-round picks, which have not been very good. But I think when you look at it, Mike, you just have to have good personnel people around you. And the problem that Chip has right now is that he's only been in the NFL for 2 years. He doesn't really know anyone. My understanding is his agent, David Dunn, is kind of helping him out, and which is smart. Dunn has executives around the league. He knows a lot of people. And we'll have to see what happens there. And I kind of like the list that they've gotten together. But the one drawback here is that it's really not a true general manager. It's really a strong number 2 personnel executive. Remember, there are no contracts. You don't have to negotiate contracts. You don't have to worry about the salary cap. You don't have to balance that. You're not going to have the power to do what you want. It's going to be up to Chip. Chip will dictate what he wants in players. But what you have to have here, and it's very important, he's got to have a symbiotic relationship here, like he had with Tom Gamble. That takes time. Gamble and Kelly, despite the speculation, didn't really know each other all that well. They figured it out together, and they had an awesome relationship, I'm told, by people in the building. Now you take that away, and it's kind of like speed dating, Mike. You got to figure it out together, and Chip's got to rely on this guy, whoever they hire.
Yeah, that's not easy, and obviously this is going to be a tough hire because, Adam, the perception is that Chip's the guy, and this guy's not going to have a lot of control. So are they going to get a top tier or a up-and-coming type of guy? What kind of candidate is going to take this job?
Well, the one that I really like out of the list, and it makes sense because he's been a general manager before, is Chris Polian, Bill Polian's son. I don't know Chris at all, but here's why I like it. Chris has been a general manager before, and it's not about, he made this pick or that pick. He has experience. You want someone who sat in that big chair. Most of the guys that they're talking to have not been a general manager before. This one is very unique. Now, it would be an upgrade for where Chris Polian is now. He's director of pro personnel. That's not a overseer of personnel, college and pro. He's done that before. This job would be. This is actually a good number 2 personnel job. And the other thing we have to talk about here, Mike, is obvious. Chip is the biggest selling point here. That is a selling point. But as some people have said to me about this, the one concern is, although Howie Roseman's role has been reduced, their relationship will Howie stay out of the way. I don't believe for a second. I know people are suggesting this. I know Howie well enough. He's not gonna try to sabotage Chip. I don't see that at all. People are trying to throw that out there because Howie now has contract control. It's not about that. It's his job to negotiate the contract. I think people are blowing that around in the media, and I just don't buy that Howie's going to do something that's going to impact their football team in a negative way with contracts. I don't see it at all. I really don't.
ESPN Insider's show is Adam Caplan at Caplan NFL. So then what do you make of some of the reports out there that he's very difficult to deal with? All these, good personnel people that have left the organization, that say basically that he's a tough guy to deal with, and he wants to – it almost seems like a guy that wants to prove people that he belongs in this macho field. Well –
how he worked his way up, and I've seen the list. First of all, some of those names are wrong. As far as Tom Heckert became a general manager of the Browns. That's why he left. A couple of those other guys, some people had some issues when they were there with Howie. Some didn't. This is not uncommon in the National Football League. But in the end, Chip got what he wanted. This is why it happened. This is what Chip wanted. He felt he had to do it. I think he was compelled to do it. Because you got to take control of the situation. It got very ugly, and he did. Now the thing that we don't know is, was this something was on Chip's mind in November, or did it just happen after Gamble went down? I mean, who knows? That's something we just don't know right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because Monday when he's asked about Gamble, he gushes about him, and he's asked about Howie, not so much. Did Howie take offense to those comments? And from those comments, did you have this firestorm? By Wednesday, Gamble's gone. By Friday, you have Kelly almost leaving. And by Saturday or Friday night, you have a promotion.
Yeah, Gamble's actually let go sometime Tuesday, and then it got announced Wednesday, Mike. But it was, it's again this is my 16th year of covering the National Football League, mostly from a national level and obviously local when I talk about the Eagles. I've never seen anything like this. Another thing we don't know is when did Chip find out about this? When Howie was doing this, did he find out during? Did he find out after Howie did it? We'll never know about that. But again, I think everyone in the building can learn, and I think Jeffrey Lurie, as I've said, been on record as saying, I think he could have done a better job of handling this situation. As much praise as we heap on him, Jeff's a great owner, but you got to take control of your building. You also have to know what's going inside your building. I think everyone connected with this could do a better job going forward.
Adam, how long does Chip have to prove that Jeff Lurie made the right decision? I mean, does he get one off season, 2, 3? Because if he's on to 3, that's 6 years that he's here. I mean, how long before you say, all right, that was a great hire, or, maybe we made a mistake?
Well, he enters year 3 of a 5-year deal, and now he's got full personnel control, which very few head coaches have. And the other thing is he hasn't been in the league very long. So you have to be careful here in his 3rd year when you give him this responsibility. Does he really know? He's got to get, as I mentioned earlier, he's got to know the guy that he hires, and they've got to make better decisions in the draft. And everyone wants to finger point here, or try to figure out who drafted Marcus Smith. Trust me on this. That was a collaborative effort. I think everybody involved liked Marcus Smith to a degree. Now, who turned the card in, so to speak, we'll never know. That's something they may take with to their grave. Who the heck knows, Mike? But in the end, it's a big step. I agree. I know people are like, wow, why would they really do this? Well, I think in the end, you don't want to lose Chip Kelly, and I think if they didn't give him personnel control, I think anything was on the table.
Well, then obviously some personnel decisions for Chip moving forward here, one of which is his quarterback situation. The free agent class, nothing special out there. The draft, really a 2 quarterback draft in terms of the first round, and the trade market, nothing very enticing there. So Nick Foles in 15?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. They don't really have a choice. And the great thing is, for Nick Foles, in this system, he's 14-5, including the playoffs. They know they can win with him, Mike. He's got to clean up the footwork, some of the mechanics. The great thing is they've already won a division with him, the NFC East. They did lose to the Saints. He learned a lot, obviously being on the sidelines. The other thing is we didn't talk about, he's been hurt a little bit too much. He's got to stay healthier, and obviously the offensive line this year. And I think that's the thing we learned about Nick Foles. Needs a running game, which he didn't have. It was very inconsistent. And the offensive line, too many changes. Last man standing really was Jason Peters due to all the injuries. And then a bunch of those guys came back, but I think that obviously impacted Nick Foles. And I think also you go into this offseason, he'll have another offseason of being the starter. I think that will help him. But they'll find someone in the draft, I'm sure. I think they'll look at it. And then Mark Sanchez, here's what we know about Mark Sanchez. Very good backup. To me, if the Eagles were smart, they'd offer him a one-year deal to come back as the backup. But he clearly is not a starter in the National Football League. I think everyone would probably admit that.
Yeah, and obviously another big decision will be Macklin. All signs point that he wants to come back, and easier.
That'll happen.
Yeah, easier said than done.
He's not going anywhere. I've been quoted everywhere saying, as I said this a month ago, there's zero chance he'll walk. That one I could tell you. As far as Trent Cole and Brandon Graham, that one will be in those situations will take care of themselves. As you just alluded to, Macklin wants to come back. They love him. They want him to come back. Great guy. This is a guy you want on your football team. That will happen. He did change agents over a month ago to Tom Condon, who is with CAA, and Tom's a veteran agent. But that'll be a very interesting negotiation because that number ought to come in at around $10 million plus per season. And Jeremy has had a history of knee problems, but he's been by the way, I voted for him for comeback of the year in a couple polls. What a phenomenal story he is.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people liked him. He put up great numbers. And as you just mentioned, though, do the Eagles want to pay him the amount of money that he might ask? So there might be mutual respect and wanting to make a deal, but $10 million for Jeremy Macklin is something I think the Eagles are probably going to have to make a little bit of a decision on now, or is that a good deal?
They're going to have to do it. Now, they give APY, $10 million is one thing, but the guaranteed money portion is going to be the challenge and how they structure it. But in the end, he's going to stay. I mean, it's not that they want to use a franchise tag on him. They don't want to do that.
No.
But they're going to make it happen. I wouldn't worry about it. Then let's put it this way. If it goes to it could it go drip into March? Sure. But again, I haven't gotten word from anyone that doesn't think he's going to be back.
Adam Caplan, at Caplan NFL, Caplan with the C, and the ESPN Insider Show on the offseason. Last one for you, Adam. Obviously, Bradley Fletcher's one guy that gets roasted in this town by everybody, and it seems like they need a clear upgrade there. Is corner a spot in free agency that they are going to target?
Well, it's the number one need, as I've said, all during the regular season. That's their number one need going to free agency. Then, depending on how they do the draft. No, it's not a really good free agency class at corner. It rarely is. Darrelle Revis, he was coming off ACL surgery, if you remember. Then he was moved to the Patriots. Aqib Talib made it to free agency, but I think in the end, you rarely see that. Now, I'm told it's a mixed bag of cornerback in the draft, so it's going to be interesting. The problem is now the Eagles don't have that developmental corner on the outside. They just don't have that guy right now, so they're going to have to find that guy in the draft. I would expect that. They know this. As heading into the draft, they've got to figure that out because that to me is a bane of their existence. If they're not going to make the playoffs next year, it's because they didn't improve the cornerback situation.
Adam Caplan, everybody, check out ESPN Television for the Insider Show and at Caplan NFL. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.